Are you ready to explore how people coordinate, to build and empower your community, to take action and solve problems, to coordinate without any central authority? What? Bring in the OGs of the pre-crypto decentralized coordination space together with the pioneers of the cutting-edge technologies to fuse their ancient knowledge with the latest tools in order to fight coordination failures, slay Moloch, and continue the endless search for the holy grails of decentralized coordination. Welcome to the front lines of coordination. Fuck. My brain is already melting. I hope you survive.
Welcome, Felipe, my DAO friend.
Thank you.
For those who don't know, Felipe, he's one of the DAO-OGs involved with a lot of DAO projects from the beginning, such as DAOstack and even some like DAOs who aren't really DAOs. I wanted to mention Disco, but then I thought, should I even mention Disco?
Well, but yeah, those I wasn't involved since the beginning. You know, DAOstack was already going on, and then I got involved in DAOstack by working for the DAO that they had, which is called Genesis. Mm-hmm. And that led into like working with DAOstack directly, especially with a project called DAOFest, which somehow ended up carving in people's minds that I organize events. And that kind of led to the DAOist. And the DAOist is the story of people who are organizing events, trying to prove to the world that we need less events, I guess. Or that we need to think differently about events and have more intentional gatherings. And the other things I was involved early on was, I think, Metacartel, which I worked way more with accessory projects than Metacartel itself. I guess Raid Guild and then DAO House. And the other one was Metafactory, that I was there like pretty close to the beginning, learning how to make virtual clothes, but the cloth behaves like actual cloth, so you have to actually learn how to sew the patterns and stuff. And that was a rough time. My computer wasn't very good back then as well. But yeah, it worked out. Like there's a full Metafactory thing project now going on. I'm so proud of what was built. It's really awesome.
And you were also somewhat involved with the PrimeDAO?
Yes. PrimeDAO, also not from the very beginning. I think the first plans of PrimeDAO were, PrimeDAO had a pre-age, and then in that time I helped with some like communication stuff, made videos and stuff, but then there was like a Prime reboot and a rebrand. I actually was really involved with that and art directed the whole new, like the new logo, the new brand, all the texts and the deck and all the kind of the language. I was partly useful in the process of figuring out that the 4 products were like one overarching thing. So I was involved into that. And also so we were all working for Colectivo Labs. And that team, there was sort of the creative team working with me under my guidance with Prime, was the small detachment that was like, we're going to organize a meetup during FCC. It's going to be chill, just one meetup. And that escalated quickly.
That seems the way it goes in the DAO space. You want to do one small thing, and then this small thing becomes a whole project, and then this project becomes a DAO.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of a negotiation from all the pressures in all directions that there are. Like the world clearly likes the events and also gave us a little bit of sort of creative permission to try weirder or different points of view on what these gatherings and conferences should look like and what the focus should be. So far we haven't irritated anyone too much, so people keep sponsoring us, we keep making them, and we keep trying out different visions. The next one in Amsterdam that comes on the 18th and 19th of, is that April? Yes. Is going to be the most different one. It's highly experimental, and we're respectfully fearful of what will work and what won't work. Hopefully, like the other times, everything will work way more than expected and everybody will love it and You can't think like this when you're doing it, you know? But I feel that at least that even if we don't manage to pull it off perfectly as we want, I think the premise that we need a place for DAO operatives to be together in a space of intimacy and not just telling each other about the projects, but also being within the projects and doing stuff in real life is a premise that I intuitively feel it's important. It's also behind the MetaHub. So the DAOist team is way smaller than people think, and everyone is a little bit artistic, or actually most of the core team are people who had like art practices outside of Web 2 or Web 3, and sort of for one reason or the other still maintain them but cannot focus on them. So we're kind of sort of bringing that point of view, one, and second, really not just like, yeah, we want to be artists, but we're actually trying to see like what from this way of viewing practice and process and the world is actually useful and lacking in Web3. So we're trying to maneuver ourselves to our point of most utility and also gather enough legitimacy to try to do some things that are, I wouldn't say weird, but they're uncommon. You know, like the idea of the hub. You've been here for a few days. You can tell me how it's going for you, you know.
Been going great. You want to tell the people more about the MetaHub?
Yeah, so the MetaHub is, or what was named first like the DAOist embassy. Right now we call it the settler age. We're literally furnishing the house while being in it and experiencing its niceness and its shortcomings so we can actually feel how it is from the inside and build it to become a temple for, let's say, decentralized creativity. More deeply, conceptually, it's a research center for collective success narratives. So how we win or we win, or how we succeed or how we achieve is a better word, as not individuals, right? So everything that we do is being done by many hands, and everybody's touching everybody's work, not touching each other, guys. Take your minds off the gutter.
Maybe sometimes.
Well, within the constraints of logic and consent. The idea is that here we're going to receive groups from the wider ecosystem and the wider DAOist community and adjacent projects that want to focus on hard creative problems or hard technological problems or hard policy discussions. So there's like these three tracks. And here they will receive the support of having a place to sleep, food, so like the systems of a home, that's something that feels like a home, with every work tool that's needed, from media to creative stuff to space for computers and co-working, etc. At the same time, there is the DAOist communications full-time team that is being built by people who are Portugal-based, that will be actually helping document and publish the work that's being done, almost like a documentary sort of visual essay effort to tell the stories of these missions that are coming through here. And the idea is that these projects are going to be curated and selected in a way that they cause systemic improvement, right? Like of course, there will be a certain level of focus on whatever's coming from our sponsors, but also our sponsors are chosen because we would focus on what they're doing. So hopefully we can start to explain some tokenomics and some mechanics, some things that are hard, through the process of showing how people work on them. And my background is in creative facilitation and process facilitation. So I hope that in the future full-fledged version of the MetaHub, I will be organized enough that I will actually be taking care of the ritual around these residencies. So onboarding people in, helping them set goals, helping them check in midway, etc., providing them with whatever's needed. Maybe we're like, oh, we want to invite this other person now. Okay, we booked them a flight, they're coming next week or something. And just truly bring coordination costs for these processes to happen, catalyzing them, and like a plug-and-play creative retreat for the DAO space, basically, you know? And we can infect each other. Infect is a bad word these days. We can pollinate each other with ideas and our own ignitions and our own excitements and the reason why we do things, while being in a very, it's clearly a very comfortable space. And it's been fun. And we are testing it out with our team. We've never been this long together and doing so much stuff together, and I'm having fun.
Cool. And you want to focus more on people coming here as DAOs, so like groups of people, or more so like individuals than doing?
Ideally, except for who, like delegates from the ministries, ambassadors, elders, and core, it would be groups. Or if you come as an individual, you come with a project. There's beginning, middle, and end. It's not just a decentralized Airbnb. Like that would be also people don't pay to come. There will be actually many donation opportunities, I hope. One of them, if everything goes to plan, will be my pottery shop, where I'll make these very bizarre objects, and there will be like make a donation, get a pot kind of a thing, you know. Hopefully, I don't know, we have many ideas. There's so many little artistic projects already, like seeds of them within the DAOist that we don't have time to finish. So maybe a focused space like this is what gonna give us like just top, like coordination costs down, more shit gets done, boom, 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 right? That's the not very intellectual way to say it, but it's pretty much the bet.
Right. So the vision of the DAOist is definitely way beyond the conferences.
Yeah, the DAOist is the crossroads of the connective tissue of critical thinking DAOists that want to stop the space from becoming any of the dystopian or flaccid or less than respectful versions that it could become. It's a think tank, it's a line of defense, it's a place where people with a lot of sincerity and integrity can come and think like, okay, what do we need to do now, you know? Ideally, this process is twofold. It's we inviting and people suggesting, and we seek each other out. And whenever there's a fit, just get your ass here and let's do something.
You're right.
Like you did. You were like, oh, I'm going to Lisbon. I was like, oh, come over. You know?
Yeah, I wasn't even coming to Lisbon. You just said, hey, the house is opening. Come. Okay, let's do it.
And now you made a ceramic octopus.
Yeah, that was unexpected. I like how you went about your fundraise, like no promises, just join.
Well, the fundraise is not a fundraise. We're selling sponsorships, right? So there is a governance component to it, but it is because every of the original sponsors of the DAOist, like before it was cool, are incredible DAO projects, right? So then the whole idea of the MetaHub was also possible because Prime wanted to support it, and then Giveth, and then Cello, and then 11 Yellow, which is this dev shop here from Portugal. So this is what allowed us to know we had enough funding to try something this risky. But now we actually really depend on getting more ministries, which is quite cheap for what it's offering. And there's a big list of interested projects, but I simply don't have time to follow up, and I'm terrified actually. I have to somehow lock myself in another office and don't let the GGG get in the way. But at the same time, the GGG is super important, because if the GGG doesn't work, it's going to be a tougher argumentation, right?
And it's next week.
Don't say that. Fuck.
Try not to think about that.
Well, but everything is mostly organized. Every time we get more figured out. But this event, it's artisanal, you know? It's ridiculously handmade, everything, including the curation. And it's small, and it's expensive because Amsterdam. By the way, if you're in Foundation, if you were listening, I told you it was a horrible idea to do things in Amsterdam, okay? Utrecht, right there, Den Haag, Groningen. If you really want to go to Amsterdam, to the Netherlands, there's so many spaces where people are not knifing each other to occupy every single centimeter cube of space. Thank you for the opportunity of enlightening me a little bit more. It's fucking so hard. But again, we hope everyone has fun that comes. We hope everyone that didn't get a ticket manages to forgive us or not get angry in the first place, which is better. And we really hope to make a next DAOist that will be truly as large, as inclusive, and as a mother hug as it can be, because the GGG is an attempt at... we had the limitation. The limitation was a given. So we just how can we turn this issue, this bug, into a feature, and really try to have something that changes the game in terms of governance intimacy and people Like, you know, when you're in a conference and you want to talk to that one person and you spend 3 days trying to set a conversation? Right. So here's one full day that is mostly empty, where you're actually curating and creating the content yourselves, and you can just go and walk to that person's table. You know exactly where they are. That's it, man. That's the day one of the GGG, you know? Let's see if this works. Let's see if this is useful. I think people are going to have a great time, especially because it will feel different than the average conference. And mostly everyone that is selected has been to enough conferences that they're like, okay, we need something else now. You know, so they're, you know.
Right.
So people that think like, oh yeah, million things and people wearing animal costumes, that's awesome. These people are not going to be at the GGG. They're going to be at the other things, you know? And it's not because we think people who are better, it's just because that's what Devconnect is all about. It's different experiences that are purposefully very different in a decentralized way. And we hope we select the right people via a very coordinated API process where everybody had input and stuff, and it was more process than product. And if you're listening and you're disappointed, I am like sorry. And we're going to keep making this stuff. Right? And this is always going to be a problem because the more we do and the more people like it, the more people want to come. So it's like a infinite recursive pattern of there will be, you know, how big can this get without it becoming a clusterfuck?
Right. That's what I was going to ask about next, because I know you never set out to like, oh, we're going to make this huge conference. You actually wanted to like make it tighter, different. Like the more popular it gets, the more people want to come and just growing, bubbling up.
For you to get like millions of people, thousands of people in, some aspect of it has to become cookie cutter, or you have to be doing it at the same, like if they're like every year, same city, same place, same team, same that. So their intimacy that they have for organizing things also has grown over the years. The problem with the DAOist is that we're like a fucking merry band of pranksters, a bunch of like a circus that goes to each place, you know? Like it's funny because we are the follower conference that goes after the other things, right? It's even hurts calling it a conference. But yeah, we're like very humble beginnings and humble middles as well, and, attaching ourselves to bigger things and doing the DAO focused thing, right? Maybe someday we can actually, ideally that would be the GGG actually, that we would anchor this in a place, you know? Wild dreams, let's say like a lot of money actually becomes available and influenceable, not necessarily our money, but like, let's say all the DAOs of the world decide that we need like a DAO center, boom, and we're gonna build it, or shouldn't, but like maybe have like a place that is of all DAOs, and then we have to legitimately figure out how to take care of it. That would be a great symbol to the universe. Let's say that all the DAOs gave 0.001% of treasury to fund this organization that would create this. Even if it's not us, and we do it by a like example, this would be something I think, like this is the kind of collective success stories and creating public goods that are more than just ethereal, like public goods that have sincere consequence if mismanaged. We should figure this out. We should force ourselves to figure this out, because then we show the world that we
can coordinate.
Yeah, we DAO it, you know? Like, so the DAOist is like the mini provocation little mode of saying like, hey, let's try to learn how to do this one step at a time. So the GGG, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is like by the people who are coming. You're all about to get emails saying like, hey, here's how it works, and day one especially. And we hope we will see like the sum be way more, the total be way more than the sum of the parts. It's the bet. I'm so nervous.
And you plan on continuing as GGG, or will you be making the DAOist conference more?
Yeah, GGG I think is like a once a year thing.
Okay.
I hope so. And then ideally in the world we would command enough legitimacy and influence that we have one DAOist and one GGG per year, and we can professionalize a team around that, and the rest of the DAOist project becomes more important than that, which is MetaHub, coordinating social technologies to create other hubs, and then evangelizing the other founders of other hubs and understanding, creating different flavors of hubs, and then just fucking scattering all over the world these places that are all accelerating DAO creativity and helping that happen, and to the point everyone forgets where it started. That would be the...
Let's go back a bit, where it all started, where... We won't go back all the way where you started, but like, why are you here? Like, why are you so fascinated by these DAOs? Why do you like it so much? Why did you choose this path?
I think there's no practical answer to this question other than it's just what happened.
Did you choose this path or did the path choose you?
No, I mean, I just started doing things for one DAO and just kept going, you know? And I follow my sensation of like ignition and I run away from things that I feel are bullshit or that make me uncomfortable or that make me too angry. And there's definitely that stuff in the DAO space as well. So like, I know I'm here for the people that I've met and just the ideas that were started out of these, and I'm trying to keep a healthy rate of finishing and starting, which a lot of people in the DAO space don't do. Interactions, and I'm just trying to finish the projects, and I haven't finished yet, so it just keeps going. And I'm trying to keep a healthy rate of finishing and starting, which a lot of people in the DAO space don't do. And you should finish it. Just finish it. Finish it now. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not doing anything with your hands, go finish something. Because, you know, as a creator, creative, explorer, researcher, blah, 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 everything you're doing is building you. But it only adds value to other people once delivered. So you, like the percentage of things you start and get finished is what will define, at least like one, probably your career success. Unless you're a bullshitter, which we have many. And it's fine also, like, oh yeah, you're successful because my tweets are amazing. But maybe a tweet is a form of delivery. Anyway, only when you get something out into the world, it adds value to other people, right? If it's in your head, I mean, I might be curious, but I'll probably record you saying it and then publish it in a video or something. Because while it's in your head, it's just in your head, and who cares, you know? Take risks, do the thing, you know, do the thing until the end of the thing, and then note down what you learned by doing the thing, and what didn't work, and what worked, and then try again. And if you keep healthy, sane, and you keep finishing stuff, eventually, like what happened with me is that there appears to be such a clear line throughout my whole life. Like, I'm 35 now. I know that it was invisible before to me, and now it just makes sense. Like, ever since I was 9 until now, it's so easy for me to know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, why am I here? And after you find that out, maybe you're just at the edge of finding that out, just focus on it. Don't buy into anyone else's vision of what success is. Don't try to be anyone else. Just focus on the thing that gives you energy and allows you to finish. And then keep finishing. Even if it's the humblest thing, you know?
What if you fuck up and choose a project that cannot be finished?
The whole project? Like, I want to talk about meta again. You can't, like, I don't know if you can finish the project, but you can finish the thing. You know, you can finish the newsletter, you can finish the podcast, you can finish the conversation, you can publish, you know. I actually think that open-ended projects that don't have a finishable, like metagame, for example, I clearly have never had time to involve myself with metagame at the depth that I would like. So much so that I stopped promising that I would, which I did a lot for the first 2 years. But it is a process over product kind of a thing, right? But within it, there is product, right? So if you're feeling like you're not finishing enough, do it. Sorry if anyone dislikes the metaphor. Do it like Russia, you know, retreat from Kyiv and just focus on something achievable for a little bit, you know, until something concrete's on the ground. Because exactly, when you have a thing that is done and it does result X every time somebody goes through it, then you start the next one. I think really, well, there was a metaphor that I read in some fucking self-help entrepreneurship bullshit when I was 29 or something like that, or 27. And it was incredibly powerful for me because I'm a highly ADHD person. I only got medicated for it like recently, less than a year ago. It did make a big difference, but I did have to survive all the rest of my life while being extremely unfocused, rather disorganized, not too clean, pissing off every team member, even though I was the boss, because I was like crazy, which I still do a little bit, but it's getting much better. And I still had to like not die, right? So I saw this metaphor, which was like a lion is tamed by a tamer with a chair and a whip. And the lion is clearly powerful enough to destroy tamer, chair, and whip. And the lion's not afraid of the whip. The whip just makes a noise to startle the lion. But the lion's afraid of the chair. And the reason why the lion's afraid of the chair is because there's 4 prongs. And they can't know which of the prongs is going to attack. And that diffuses the capacity of the lion to resist or to mount a counterattack. So that in definition. So the metaphor, the entrepreneurship metaphor was attack 1 prong at a time and you destroy the chair and the tamer and the whip. I don't think that's super deep now, but when I heard it, it was exactly the moment I needed to hear it. So I took a bunch of data-driven approaches to the work that we had a motion graphics sort of design boutique thing. And I finally sat down and looked at all the past work, all the past clients. I created a prioritization method, found out, because we didn't have, like, we couldn't pay rent. It was harsh. There's moments where I couldn't eat meat. So in that really intense situation, I found a way to look at where energy was getting wasted and where things were actually coming from. And then this for any entrepreneur who's worth it, their salt, is obvious, but I remember I was a painter. You know? So I had to figure out all of this as the thing rolled downhill. And it was just by organizing that our income multiplied 10x, our life relaxed a lot, and then we started doing one thing at a time. And that led to an incredible collective house, which was much crazier than the MetaHub is in Brazil. And it was a big, big thing. Like that created the reputation that we had, that eventually led to me getting invited to come to Germany to do a residency program thing with like sharing economy and art. And I was kind of the only person in Brazil or Rio that had these two things going at the same time. And that completely changed my life and set everything else into course. So it's ridiculous, like one little simple insight from one article just started all of this and allowed me then to put into practice all the subtler notions of my practice, which all the Goethe stuff and the facilitation stuff that I do kind of in hiding, and you get glimpses of it at the last talks that I've been giving lately, especially the series with the white background, one sentence and one emoji, which there's one from the TEA, research on compensation systems, and the other one at Shelling Point and If Never. And I need to advertise those more, but I get super cringe pushing my own content. So, and the other metaphor that I also heard that was important, it was very simple, is the story of the donkey. This is very true of all like beginners, artists or anything. Donkey is very thirsty. There's a bucket of water right there. And so he starts walking towards the bucket, and then he notices he's hungry. And then he looks to the side, there's a pile of hay. And it's like, oh, I'm so hungry. I'm just gonna get some hay. And starts walking towards the hay. He remembers he's thirsty, he looks to the bucket, I'm so thirsty, and starts walking towards the bucket. And the donkey dies in the middle. And I know it sounds stupid, but I see a lot of people doing this all the time, at least in some aspect of their lives. So those kind of simple ideas saved my life, but now I know that it's just because I'm ADHD as fuck. So donkey took Ritalin. Donkey started to drink water and eat the food. I don't know how to say it,
But DAOs have ADHD. Like DAO.
Yeah, DAOs sometimes do have ADHD, or they dissolve themselves, and that might be the superpower of them to a certain extent. But as long as the survival systems are in check.
Have you not finished the ground?
I don't know, like the DAOist, the core team is not a DAO. It started as a very centralized thing around me. And then as people started really becoming domain leaders of their things, we figured out the vertical. So now we have 4 leaders, and hopefully that's going to keep multiplying. And then Dawn, it's completely decentralized, and we're starting to use it to find the political foundation of the projects, right? So ideally, the long arch future of the DAOist, it will be defined by discussions held within Dawn. And in Dawn are all core team, all elders, and every sponsor of the first 2 events. And I am going to suggest some scheduled governance distribution to new sponsors, to the DAO, and see if it passes. If it doesn't pass, I'm so sorry. And hopefully we will get used to co-owning things like that,
And you said there will also later be the day after the dawn.
Yeah, so I have a vision for a day that I'm going to suggest, which is very simple vision. Also has to be passed by a DAO, which is to set aside a certain amount of money to be put there and have no goal and let community use it for whatever the fuck they want.
Wait, so the dawn will stay when the day comes?
Yeah, dawn will stay, but the ideas are born in dawn and could get deployed via day, for example. I don't know. It's just a naming system, because I want people to understand that the project doesn't need to be a DAO. Project can have several DAOs. project is a hyper object, and the DAOs are just the forums. Just like a country has a senate and a parliament and the thing and the other thing, Congress. You can have different governing bodies with different functions, and that they're purposely built to have differing points of view and to sharpen things. Not that I think that's happening perfectly at all democracies, but like something like this can be created to the point where the healthy competition between the worldviews can actually create more collective intelligence, I hope. Like, honestly, I feel responsible like touting these ideas because I need to deploy them and test them, right? And I don't think like something that works for one project, like I don't think governance is like code that you can just fork the system and it works. I think governance depends on contextual navigation and hyper-aware practitioners. I talked about this at the Refi meetup, the DAOist Refi meetup in Barcelona a few days ago. I didn't plan to talk about it, but it came up, and I realized that we're all going to have to become practitioners in governance, which is like a fighter pilot or a Formula One driver or a surgeon or a painter or a sculptor or even sometimes a lawyer. People that have like a cybernetics skill that they need to navigate while they're practicing. They're navigating the field changing as they do it. I think as governors, we're all going to have that layer of practitioner to what we do about politics, like just being humans together, making decisions together, understanding to take or to give, understanding what hills we want to die on or not. Ideally for me, at the same time that we would become more generous, we would also learn about what makes us be unforgiving completely, and define this together. And at least I hope that there's spaces that I feel completely, not completely, but most close to completely satisfied with the political philosophical cornerstones, so that I can wholeheartedly defend them and give my life to them, which I probably no one of us feels with the nation states that we live in, even if it's just a tiny thing. And then if those things change and we don't feel that great anymore, at least we know, and the process that led to that was transparent and also sedimentary, like layer by layer. And then we can just go on a journey and find other spaces to act. A life where people wake up and say, my mission here is done, and I go somewhere else, without fear, This is a true promise in the DAO space that is actually realized almost, or it is for some people. You just pack and go knock on some other door.
Just walk away.
Have you read the book?
No, I have it on my list, but the list is huge.
But this book is like pulpy and fun and young, like young adult kind of a thing. It's like the Hunger Games that the world needs, not Hunger Games. Like, hi Corey.
Does that mean the Sunset DAO? When you told me that the day is after the dawn,
Dusk DAO only makes margaritas.
But yeah, that was going to be my next question, because I thought that the day inherits the dawn, so the dawn closes after the day opens, and then the next question would be, does those two also mean that...
I don't think so, because in the end of the day, it's always day, night, dusk, and dawn somewhere in the world at the same time. They don't have to close. It's a fucking sphere.
True.
Then after I run out of daytime convention names, I can state like go tides, then weather systems, then seasons, anything that's cyclical. Just fucking pick that. It's gonna have latitudes and longitudes.
Where is it all going?
Everything? Oh, it's clearly the shit. Sorry, no, I'm positive. I mean, all is not going anywhere, but several things are going to several different places.
And most of them are not good.
No, I think most of them are fine. I don't try to think about good and bad. The good and bad are also part of the problem that I was going to highlight, which is the mental capacity of forming presumed concept of what the world is. The world is this, the world is that, the world is what. It's not, motherfucker. You haven't experienced the world. So the more keenly aware that your experience is actually a limited, very gigantically limited subset of the total available experiences, the more likely you are to be a better operative and not make assumptions. Whenever people allow themselves to form such large ideas, the world is this, the world is that, and it's often completely devoid of any relationship to action, that's when shit goes bad. In everywhere, in a family, in a relationship, in a company, in a country. Felipe, would prefer that most assumptions are backed by some form of action that checks the assumption. And if you can stay focused on what's immediately doable by you, and it doesn't mean only looking at your own little plate, but also making sure that your perception initiatives, which are also actions, are done from understanding how small, insignificant, and unspecial you are, although everything that we want to be from the deep innards of our being is to be special, to justify being alive, and to live in that tension with some degree of comfort and ideally with enough humor to not go fucking insane. If we could do this together, all of us, and in a state of high coordination, it might be more fun to be around. Yeah.
Actionable next steps, motherfucker. But yeah, I've heard so many people be like making two conclusions, which are like, A, the world is fucked. B, there's nothing you can do about it. And it's like, okay, but like, what do you do then? Like, just kill yourself. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, there is no world. Wash your underwear. Hug someone, cut your hair, tend to the lawn, take out the trash, notice the beauty of something. Because people think that action is just like work or heavy stuff. Action, like perception is action. And I would say more deeply, and I'm not willing to defend this point of view. If you don't get it, figure it out. That actually every thought is action, not in a just cute way. That there is an action component, and it's action in this, like, okay, this is metaphysics, but thoughts have concrete outside world consequence. And I'm not talking about the secret or manifesting, but it's because as you concept, so you perceive. So as you perceive, so you concept. And there's this fractal game, but it's way faster than you could ever understand how to influence, right? Noticing thought patterns might help you understand what you're actually doing and how what you're actually doing differs from what you say you would like to be doing. So catching yourself in the process of thinking, as understanding thought as action, might help you catch yourself in the process of thinking. Because when you punch a wall, you know you've punched a wall. But we all carry within us sometimes thoughts that are equivalent to punching a wall inside your head. If you could catch those, if I could catch those, my life would be so much better,
And what if we could all catch ourselves punching a wall?
I think life would be better. A lot of like malicious or Malachian behavior is probably the result of badly processed feelings of fear, rejection, or just negative stuff. It would be probably impossible to be aware of everything all the time. Like consciousness is really tiny, and language forces consciousness. Like consciousness, because it's mediated by language, it's put on a linear track, like a time track. So you need time to process things on a linear language way, and that's why I'm kind of so big on process and experiential learning and observation of nature, and also entheogens or any other of sort of pre or post linguistic, verbal, semantic ways of processing input, like what you're experiencing as a person. And it's so time bound, when we have to think through things like therapy or something, sometimes embodying the learning can be just as more useful, or at least more practical, if less predictable. I don't know. Like I'm not sure of any of this, but I do feel that it's safe to say that there's levels of awareness, there's intensities to awareness and flavors and textures to awareness, and we are not completely in control of what's influencing it, how it's shaping. It's like literally a needle running a groove on a mysterious, unknowable, never-ending vinyl record that stands both to the past and the future and deep inside. And we're all just trying to navigate that. It's a sorry, delicious state to be a human. Yeah, there's a few fallback positions. You can get really obsessed with it, and maybe get lost in philosophical meandering and trying to decode and understand and use more. That's why I often talk shit of philosophy, and I talk up poets, because philosophers, they're trying really to crack the code of reality or life or the right way to live, or depends if you're a moralist or what you're exploring, but you're really trying to produce a linguistic, watertight object that understands some aspect, right? And while the philosopher is like, I don't need to be watertight. I don't need to build a ship. The poet, I guess. I don't know if I said the philosopher. The poet. Contrary to the philosopher, the poet is like, I don't need to build a ship. I'm going to take my shirt off and swim. But that's just a linguistic binary dichotomy. And then maybe these are two polarities, which in my work I identify as the mother. I've been challenging people every time I speak to find the bigger polarity of identity and relationship, of being or becoming, affirming a state or relinquishing stateness to venture into the unknown. And we do create a lot of complication as people. And it's sometimes easy if you forget of international relations and standing armies and public policy and infrastructure to identify with. It's so simple to just be human and be nice to the one next to you. But then again, it's so easy to shit on that position and say, but what about everything that has brought you here? Somewhere in that blade's edge, we dance, we have children, we build projects, we do things that we think are mistakes, we do things that we think are successes, and we're never sure which is which. And I prefer allowing all that uncertainty in, inviting it in, than pretending I know something, which most of me don't. And I think last time I wrote a poem was 5 years ago now. And I mean, there was one poem that I was like, I don't think I'll ever be able to say anything more than this. I just kind of gave up.
Right.
And it ends in something, I don't remember exactly, but it's about I. It's about the construct of the I. The self, I with, not the self, because the self, according to Jung and blah, blah, it's the deep inside, but the I is sort of the veneer, the persona, the ego, or something in between the ego and the persona, whatever. These are all, again, just taxonomic needs for us to pretend like we know something, because we have to try to build knowledge and we have to try to do it responsibly. But then again, so it goes something like, it's an accumulation of adjectives and verbs and things that just cause a lot of sensation. And in the end, I think it's suspended in a formidable cornucopia of sensation. I hides in itself a confession of its fundamental crime. That I never saw, not I. Reality is a word with really big ambitions. That's it.
So you try to kind of slap yourself out of thinking about these bigger picture ideas and just move on, experience, finish things, do things, and live a good life.
Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to lose weight all the time. That keeps me in check. Yeah. Because most of the other states are happening at the same time. I'm mostly happy and I'm mostly sad. I'm mostly peaceful, but I'm mostly angry. I'm mostly, every dichotomy, I'm mostly both. But I'm always only fat. That's a great end for a podcast.
And you're not even really fat. So you're both fat and not fat.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck, you took my only thing. Yeah.
Just keep on moving, trying to be human.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Thank you, Felipe, for coming on. Or didn't come on, I came to your house.
Not mine. It's ours, my dear elder. We're doing it. Thank you for coming. I'm really happy that you've been here for these first very undefined days. I wish I had more time to be working at the house, but the GGG and people's maybe rightful desire and self-importance that they deserve tickets that I cannot give.
If you didn't get a ticket this time, maybe next time. And don't be angry at Felipe. The capacity is just fucked. Thank you for listening. See you next time.